Hey everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had a good week. Going to get back into the Purussaurus. So today I'm going to be trying to kind of wrap up the last things that I need to do on the high poly. And then I mean, that's the priority today. We'll see how far we get. I'd really like to be able to start the retopology process next week. So we'll see how far we, how well we do. It shouldn't be too much, I don't think. I see maybe a couple areas that we need to pick up on. All the high poly done. Okay, we'll get started. I think I have all my stuff up here. Blixtune, hey, how's it going? Model really looks gorgeous. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I am doing my best here. Yeah, so far I'm happy with the way the model is turning out, I tend to be pretty what's the word? I'm very self-critical, So I'm always kind of looking at my stuff and seeing where it can be improved. I'm trying to kind of, enjoy things a little bit more. I think it's good to be self-critical in certain instances because it helps you grow and kind of push yourself, but it can definitely be if you're overdoing it, it can be pretty detrimental. Make yourself feel bad all the time, which I've done too. But this is going pretty well, I think. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of clean up little areas that I see that are kind of, I'd say they're like fuzzy. They're kind of blurry. Just sharpen those up. And then we'll see where that takes us. These little scales here are going to be... Let me see if I can find better ref on my sheet. Because these can be kind of time consuming. I don't want to spend forever on these. So we might need to do some kind of quick... some quick kind of scale alpha or something that we can drag out on here. Because I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to really get this wrapped up today. Just this area, like right here like in between these two groupings of scales here that I'm kind of looking at. Nice man, hello. How you doing? How was your week? Mine has been pretty good actually. Really productive. I feel a lot better. I was still kind of recovering from being sick last week. So I think all of that's kind of gone away now. So I'm pretty much back to normal. Had a nice chill week. That's really good. Those are always nice. Yeah, I don't get sick very often, which is pretty fortunate, but in the times when I do, it tends to kind of knock me out pretty good. This one wasn't like totally like a huge knockout. There was a couple of days where I was pretty much just lying around, but it was kind of more annoying than anything because it was like sinus pressure and like headache and stuff like that, and I kind of hate those symptoms. And then there's always like the lingering cough and like runny nose and stuff. It's kind of annoying. Yeah, I'm trying to. The week has kind of gone by like kind of like a blur, I think. I did actually get a chance to go to the gym this week. I do like to lift. It's one of the, I guess, I don't know if you would call it a hobby. It's just an interest, and I enjoy it a lot, but I haven't really felt motivated to go in a while. But I actually went this week, which was fun. But I think I kind of it's been a while since I gone, and I think I kind of overdid it because I was extremely sore the next day. I was kind of walking around the house like a T-Rex. Like my arms were like not movable. So I need to be careful. I kind of need to ease into it. I can't pick back up where I left off. I'm kind of hoping to go today again. Cause I don't feel sore really anymore. I feel like everything's healed up. I'm kind of gonna take, to watch out for how much weight I'm lifting. Cause I don't want to hurt myself. And then I think this week, what was it? I can't remember. I think it was this week, but there was that update to Monster Hunter that had the Arc Tempered guy in it. I don't know if you guys play Monster Hunter. But I did that. I was fighting Arc Tempered Ray Dow. Ray Dow is a super fun fight all by himself, I think. So I was really looking forward to the Arc Tempered version. Because I remember back to Monster Hunter World, the Arc Tempered fights were really they were actually really challenging usually. So I was excited for that, but I think he's kind of too easy, in my opinion. So I killed him on my first. Well, I was going to kill him on my first try, but then my computer crashed. But I killed him on the second try, and that's kind of, for an Arc Tempered monster, that's like way too fast, I think. There would have been, if that were an Arc Tempered like monster from World that just released, there would have been no way that I would have done that on my own first or second try. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I hope they have another version of him or like something. 'Cause it was a little bit of a letdown. Let's see. Hoopbirds, welcome again. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you. Are there any clues as to what the next dino will be after Eocarcharia, Urano, and Puru? Not. We've talked. There's a long list of stuff. I don't know. I'll look into that for you and see if I can get an answer that I can share. Because I don't want to like spill the beans here and then get in trouble. So I don't think I can answer that for you right now, but I'll try to look into that for you, and maybe we can. If you remind me next week, and I'll see if I can mention a couple of things or maybe some options, general directions as to what we can work on. Hopefully, it's something kind of, maybe we can go something very different, like just like a completely different body plan or something, so that way we can add a little bit of variety here. Or maybe, I don't know. It's going to be hard to, because I'm kind of juggling like 3 different models right now. And that's kind of, it's a bit of a challenge already. So I don't want to add like more. Or maybe we can do some work on the Urano or something in here if you guys want to see something like that. Like some texture work or something, if that's an option. What's going on? Let's see. Irritator would be fun. I have not. I don't think I've ever sculpted an Irritator. That would be a first for me, so that would be fun. I love Spinosaurids. They're super cool. I think I'd have a lot of fun sculpting the forelimbs on those guys. That huge claw. So yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, it depends. Depends on what the needs of the game are. So I can check in and see what we might need. All has to get done eventually, right? Big Steam Monster Hunter, heard of it but never played it. Might actually check it out when I get a new laptop, considering the laptop barely loads EOE on my menu. Yeah, the newer Monster Hunter Wilds might be a rough experience on a laptop depending on what you get. Because I have a fairly it used to be a higher end PC. But now with all of like the new graphics cards and stuff like that, I mean, I guess it's debatable because like people will talk about having the new like either like the 4090 or like the new 500 series or whatever they call it out. They'll talk about having that, but then they'll still have issues with the games that are coming out right now. Like I don't really see every resource that I've seen that I've looked into as to whether I should upgrade or not has kind of said like, you know, it's kind of not worth it right now. Because these newer graphics cards and like maybe CPUs even aren't really providing the graphical upgrade that they're kind of promising, you know. There's not a lot of optimization that especially Monster Hunter Wilds would need. So I don't know. If you're looking to get into Monster Hunter, I would actually try World first. That would be a good point of entry, or even like maybe if you have a Switch, Generations Ultimate would be cool. That's a very good one. Rise is good too. It's very I actually, now that I've played Wilds, I've kind of grown to appreciate Rise much more. I used to kind of, you know, after playing World and then going into Rise, I was a little bit kind of disappointed. Not disappointed, it's just I feel like Rise was like a kind of a weird mashup of different Monster Hunters. And it was definitely less like grounded, right? Because of the move sets and all the crazy abilities that you can get. But I do appreciate the challenge that it offers. But yeah, Monster Hunters are all generally really good, really fun games. Like the gameplay loop is very cool, very fun. Learning all the monsters, seeing all the monsters, all the armor sets and weapons and stuff. So I would highly recommend that game. If you're interested in getting into it, I would say, you know, go for it. It's really fun. Megaloid, when will the game release? Don't need the exact date, but maybe some information. You know, I'm not the best source for like release dates and yeah, you know, ETAs and all that stuff. I would see if you can find more info online or in the Discord. Yeah, I unfortunately don't have that off the top of my head right now. Sorry. Oh, look. Okay. Blixtoon has some info for you. Thank you, Blixtoon. A nice man made a fan art of Irritator on the Discord. I will try to check that out. Is there like a fan art or like an art section in the Discord? That'd be cool to see. Let's see. I'm interested. See if I can pop up the Discord right now. Get my reference out of the way. Oh, there's a lot of artwork in here. That's cool. I'm seeing the artwork section. Oh, I see. Is it the irritator that's like in the it's like in a swamp hunting tribal maybe? Is that it? Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, that looks awesome. I like the colors on it. The side profile looks really cool too. That sort of like that gray and orange and yellow combo is really nice. Yeah, that would look really cool. I am looking forward to that sculpt. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I will check in with some of the other devs and see, especially Islander, and see if that's something we can do. I'm not really sure like what their like the rollout what that is exactly. Yeah, that'd be cool if you guys are artists as well, like feel free to join in with me and draw or sculpt along, or work on your own projects, or if you're working on fan art stuff, that'd be cool to see. These types of streams are, I personally like to throw on a stream of some artists that I'm a fan of and work on stuff alongside them. So if you feel like doing that, then that is totally welcome. Lixtoon, you said you need to practice a new art style. What is the art style you're working on? Are you trying to come up with like a brand new one for yourself, or are you practicing something as an existing art style? Switching up art styles has been something that's been an interest of mine. It's because I have to do it so often. The jobs that I've had in the past, they can swing from like super realistic to like kind of cartoony. And then of course the genre changes, so a lot of the stuff I worked on is like fantasy, but then there's like sci-fi stuff that's like totally like unique IPs, but then that stuff that's based on existing IPs. So you kind of have to match what the art style is. You know, you have to be consistent. So like, it's been kind of strange. I've had to. I would compare switching art styles to kind of like switching languages. Like if any of you speak more than one language, like speaking in English versus speaking Spanish or something, like if you can switch that up mid sentence or something, it kind of feels the same. Not exactly, of course, because it's kind of what I would relate it to. Trying to force myself to stop with one art style and start a completely new one. I have a cleanish art style with a bunch of lines, and I want a fully clean one with minimalistic lines. Ah, I see. Something more, I guess, kind of refined, I suppose, like less sketchy, is what I'm guessing. Yeah, something like that, except I can't get rid of it for over a few months now. I was drifting back to it despite myself. Okay. Yeah, it can be rough getting out of like when I was in art school, the beginning of art school especially, I was really influenced by an artist that I used to look up to on DeviantArt. I mean, I still like their art a lot, but I used to draw a lot like them. And it took me a while to like get all of that, out of my system, I suppose. I actually don't. I mean, I was definitely trying to get it out of my system, consciously, but I don't actually know how I started to like shake it, It kind of just happened over time. What kind of things have you been trying? Like, maybe are you just trying to switch up your mark making? Or have you been doing studies from like different artists, like artists that like look completely different? Are there any like exercises you've been trying to do to move forward, I suppose? Switched up my sketchy brush into a solid line with barely any line weight. Studied a few artists, but I just continued to draw less refined. Oh, okay. Who are some of your favorite artists? Just out of curiosity. Is it like more like comic book style stuff? Like, because it seems like a lot of emphasis on line art. Mini Paku. Hi, welcome. Yeah, I personally, I think I have a style that's, well, I don't know if I would actually say I have a style. I kind of just do whatever I feel. I kind of switch up my techniques a lot because I get bored really easy. So I don't really stick with the same approach every single time, which I don't know. I guess can be a good and bad thing. I think keeping myself interested is probably more important than like defining a super consistent method. There are definitely methods that I like can rely on and go back to if I need to. But I kind of jump around, and I think that affects the way my artwork looks. Sometimes. Sometimes my art can look fairly different. Depending on how I start things or the tools I'm using, references I'm using and stuff like that. My line art though is very sketchy. I wouldn't consider it very clean at all. I can make it clean after a while. But that's it takes a lot of like drawing over stuff, you know. Sketching out, then turning the layers to low opacity, and then drawing over the top with more refined lines. There are people who like can just draw like super clean right off the bat. Just so you know, one pen stroke, and that's like the perfect stroke, you know. I think stuff like that just requires a lot of foresight. Like you kind of have to think about exactly what you want to do, and then once you're ready, you put the pen down and make your mark. It's kind of like you have to be really good at mentally visualizing what you want to draw. Have a very clear idea in your head. It's kind of like there's two guys that come to mind when I think about people who draw like that, and that would be Kim Jong-gi and Marko Djurdjevic. I don't know if you guys know who those artists are, but they're the type of guys that it's almost like they have a projector in their head and they're projecting the artwork down onto the paper before you see it, and they're just tracing that. They have very clean, very deliberate, you know, really purposeful line art. I used to really, well, I still do. I love their work. But I used to really want to be that, you know. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to achieve that sort of level of clarity, I suppose, in the way I draw. Like one pen stroke, and that's the perfect stroke. But I don't know. I think I was trying to be a little bit more of something I wasn't. I think I've accepted that I'm just not like I'm more of a sketchy artist than one of those clean guys. You know, I'll make things clean eventually. It's just I've accepted that I sketch things out and I work things out on the paper. That's not to say I think if you train a lot at anything, you can probably achieve it though. I think if I were to like concentrate on making those kinds of drawings a priority, I could probably do it, but I don't know if that would necessarily be fun or why I would be doing that other than just to achieve it. I don't know. I picked up on Lost Scent under Ravenwood and Inui. Okay. I don't think I've heard if those are artists. I don't think I've heard of them or like seen them, or maybe I have and I just don't know it. Because there's always those artists, where you've definitely seen their work, but you just don't know their name. But I'll look them up. They sound interesting. And Iceman. So far, there are 3 groups of carnivores, herbivores, and semi-aquatics that we have so far. So maybe the next dino will be small carnivore or pterosaur, would be my guess. Okay. Birds of flyer next would be cool. There is potential for that as well. And it has been a while since I've sculpted a pterosaur, so that would also be fun. I think the last pterosaur I sculpted was Tupandactylus. And that was a while ago, almost a year ago. Quets and Hatzegopteryx. Yeah, I don't think those guys are in there. Tropiognathus, I think, is in there. If I remember right. Firas al-Mashari. Firas al-Mashari. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Are there pictures that you take as reference when doing such art? Pictures that I take? No pictures that I take, unfortunately. I mean, I have taken pictures of crocodiles and stuff that over the years, like stuff from museums, zoos, but they're usually not like I kind of suck at taking pictures. Like I have a lot of pictures of like stuff from museums, like skeletons and things like that for dinos, but yeah, nothing that I've taken specifically for this. I do use reference. I have my reference sheet here, but no, I didn't take any of these pictures. These are all from the internet, or like, yeah, from the internet, papers that I've read or downloaded, and all that stuff. So I do use reference. I think reference is really important. I think a lot of, especially beginning artists, should use more reference. I think it's really important to understand how real things work before you try to embellish or exaggerate stuff. That's kind of where you get yourself in trouble a lot of times as a new artist. You're kind of like trying to run before you can walk in those kinds of instances, I think. Not to say you can't have fun, you know, but studying and learning from the real world is really important, especially if you want to be like a character artist. Well, for any type of art, I think, but character artists and creature designers definitely need to study. I would say more so creature designers, because it's a little underrepresented. It's easy to learn human anatomy, fairly easy, because there's so many resources out there for it. Like there's a ton of like human anatomy books and like how to draw human anatomy on YouTube and all this stuff. But creature anatomy is a little bit harder to learn because there's so many different kinds that you need to learn about. Firas al-Mashari, these are really beautiful details. Thank you. I'm a dino fan, and I've seen a lot of 3D models, especially from the IO games, such as Dinosuchus. Oh, cool. Yeah. I know a lot of the people who have worked on the IO models. Thanks. I really appreciate that, Firas. No worries. Feel free to chat and ask me any questions you have. I'm totally open to answering anything you're wondering about. It's fun for me to chat with you guys here. You know, that's kind of the whole point of the stream. So I can, you know, I've kind of started to learn how to multitask, you know, chat and work at the same time. I think you have to be able to do that, right? If you're streaming at all. Kind of comes with the territory. You're watching while eating. I hope it's something good. I hope it's something delicious, right? It's kind of too early for me to eat right now. I think my wife and I are going to, after the stream, it's getting much warmer where I live. And there's a local farmers market that happens just down the street from us. So I think we're gonna go check that out. And there's like a little cafe and stuff there that we can usually get some coffee and some breakfasty snacks. So I think we're gonna do that today. I think that's a nice start to the morning. Furious Elmashari. Okay, Furious. I'm just gonna call you Furious. I have a question. Do you think it's too late for someone who's 20 years old to start 3D? No, of course not. No, not too late at all. I think whenever you want to start learning to create something is when you want to start it, and as long as you're motivated and interested and you're having fun, then that's the right time to do the work, So no, that I think you're perfectly fine. If you wanted to start learning how to 3D model right now, then that's the time to do it. And fortunately, there's a ton of resources out there for how to get started, and there's a lot of different programs to use. There's lots of free programs. Like Blender is really, really good if you wanted to start doing 3D stuff, but you didn't want to you just wanted to test the waters out. You didn't want to invest a lot of money or anything like that in it. I would just jump on YouTube, download Blender, jump on YouTube, get some beginners tutorials and just start going through them and seeing what you can come up with. Have a lot of patience with yourself. Don't compare yourself to you're going to see a lot of people out there that are doing crazy stuff, crazy models, crazy characters, crazy, all kinds of stuff, effects, all this stuff, and you're going to want to do stuff like that. But, have patience with yourself. You're going to get there. It's just, you got to go through the learning and the growing pains and stuff like that. So, have a lot of patience with yourself, but just kind of start going through it and learn and have fun. It's that would be my advice to even myself. If I were to talk to myself years and years ago, I think I would say the same thing. Especially, I would emphasize not to not to compare yourself to other people, because I have a bad habit of doing that kind of thing, and it can become very demotivating. Yeah, just enjoy. Bixtune. I always wanted to learn 3D modeling too, but never learned how from the tutorials. Can follow even the simplest one. Perhaps it doesn't want me to model. You never know. Maybe I think if you're interested in 3D modeling, one thing that I would encourage anyone interested in 3D to learn is actually how to draw well. Because if you can draw well, you can model well, usually. But it's not necessarily this other way around, I consider drawing the foundation of pretty much any visual art skill. Drawing, then painting, and then usually traditionally, I think you'd start drawing, then you'd move to painting, then you go to sculpture. So if you're interested in sculpting, I would actually try drawing stuff. Try drawing a character before you sculpt it. Try painting a character before you sculpt it, because it helps so much with like understanding like how light catches onto a form, how the form turns, silhouettes, readability of the silhouettes. Helps you practice anatomy much faster. Practicing anatomy in 3D can be a little bit slow, especially just when you're trying to memorize it and get it down. It's kind of faster just to sketch it, at least in my opinion. But yeah, if you're trying to learn a new skill, all I can say is, take it slow, dissect it into little manageable pieces. Repetition is important. Don't just try something once and then if you don't get it, then kind of give it up. Try it again. Try it a few times. Give yourself a chance to like internalize it and like warm up to it. Eventually you'll get it. How long have you done this for, by the way? You mean like just 3D modeling? I've been 3D modeling or 3D sculpting stuff since I was digitally since maybe 2013, give or take. It's kind of hard to remember exactly when I started. I had always sculpted I started sculpting traditionally when I was in middle school. I kept sculpting in high school. Kind of dropped off a little bit when I started college, but then I picked it back up. I can show you guys one of my very first. I think I have it on DeviantArt. My very first kind of serious 3D sculpt of traditional 3D sculpt. It's been so long since I've looked at DeviantArt. Here we are. Should be in here somewhere. There it is. This is the sculpt I did when I was a sophomore in college. Made out of Sculpey. And I did so much research for this. Lots of well, at the time there wasn't like a lot of sculpting tutorials on YouTube, so I was using Gnomon Workshop stuff. Because at the time, Gnomon Workshop used to sell DVDs and my college had Gnomon Workshop DVDs, but they didn't have any of the ones I needed, so I actually had to request. And one of my teachers actually gave me their subscription, so I could log in and watch some tutorials. But I was watching, I think his Peter Koenig. He's the guy that worked on a lot of creature designs, like in the 90s. Like if you know, I think it's Peter Koenig. Let me make sure I'm thinking about the same guy. The right guy, I mean. Yeah, Peter Koenig. He worked on I think he worked on Jurassic Park. Yeah, he worked on Jurassic Park. He did maquettes for Jurassic Park, and this guy, Peter Koenig, and he did the dragon for Dragonheart. I love this dragon design, by the way. I think he looks really cool. But this guy, he had a tutorial out on Gnomon, and I actually eventually got to be in a class that was taught by him. So he was actually a teacher of mine. But that was later on down the line. But yeah, I watched one of his tutorials on how to build an armature and how to plan out all of the sculpting and the concepts. So I went through all that process for this. It's probably the most in-depth traditional 3D sculpture that I've ever worked on. After this, I jumped into the next thing that I did that was major was learn ZBrush. So it's been a while. But yeah, there's so many resources out there to learn. I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that I started learning with. 3D Total used to have a really nice intro to ZBrush, taught by oh man, what's his name? Michael Pavlovich. I think 3D Total doesn't exist anymore, maybe. I'm not sure. You might be able to find that tutorial somewhere. But Michael Pavlovich has like a ton of stuff on ZBrush on his channel. And then of course there's like just the ZBrush, Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel that they're always showing stuff on there. People stream on there. All the time. Yeah, lots and lots of stuff. Frog off. I'm confused about how to model a crocodile head. Hard for you. Confused about it, like in what sense? Like just where to start, or how are you approaching it right now? What are you stuck on? Yeah, no worries. Go ahead and take your time. But like just talking about my own approach, maybe that would help you. But um, I would usually so of course get all the reference you need. So if you're sculpting a crocodile or whatever it is, figure out what species it is, get as many images of that species as you can from as many angles as you can, as high res as you can. Make a big reference sheet of all of that stuff. You're going to want pictures of a skull of that thing. And the way I like to do it is I like to actually just like do a simple block in of the skull. That's what we did for this guy. I don't know if I have the skull. Kind of, sort of. You can see where the skull was. So I sculpted the skull. It doesn't need to be any crazy detail. If you're just trying to do a skull, then that would be cool. You know, a nice little study if you wanted to learn about the creature. But doing a sculpt of the skull, or at least a quick blocking of the skull, that way you know what your structure is. And then you can start adding on top of that to get the oh, here's the skull. I have it still. I forgot I had a version of it in here. Turn off all this stuff. So it's kind of like a foundation, and then I just like to add stuff on top of it. Add all this muscle, add all the skin. Yeah, all of that. Let's see. But yeah, so trying to go for like straight into a sculpt, like if you're trying to sculpt a crocodile and you're going straight into like trying to get it all detailed and all this stuff on top, it can be really overwhelming. So I would suggest, you know, breaking it down into simple pieces and then kind of layering things on top of it. And if you're working digitally, of course, like always keep in mind, like you can always go back, like save, like say you're starting a new phase or something, right? Like maybe you finish the skull, but you're starting to add the muscles and you're worried that you're going to mess things up. Well, you know, don't worry too much about that. You know, you can always save a different version. You can make a copy of the mesh in here and keep a copy like I did with the skull. That way, in case something goes wrong, you know, always go back. You know, try to relieve the pressure off of yourself. Like it's okay. Like, you know, you can always restart, try again. It's not going to be, like I've made quite a few mistakes actually in this stream. Not this stream, but like as we've been streaming. There's been times in our streams, if you guys were here, I don't know. Well, last week, the power went out. And I lost like, I don't know. What was it? Maybe like a half hour of work. I can't remember how long I was on. Another time, ZBrush crashed and I lost a good chunk of work on that one, I think. So, I mean, stuff happens. Accidents happen. You can mess up your mesh and then restart. You can revert back to an old save. You can do all this crazy stuff. It's pretty flexible. So I wouldn't, you know, when you're learning stuff, try not to put so much pressure on yourself. Because odds are you're not going to get it right the first time, you know. That's why it's, learning. You try something out, make a mistake, take note of that mistake for next time, try it again. And then gradually you build up the expertise that you're trying to get, I hope that helps somehow. It's, of course, it's easier said than done. Like, I always say that to myself too. Like, we're just experimenting. We're just, messing around. And then I get very serious about it. And I kind of forget the goal. The whole purpose is to have fun. It's to learn. It's to grow. So you kind of have to remind yourself, at least I do. I have to remind myself, like, hey, chill out. Like, it's not that serious. Even in stuff like this, like, this is, I'm working on this model for you guys for Echoes of Extinction. It's a client model. It's for a client, but even then, I kind of have to tell myself, like, this is, if I think about it too much, and I you can really psych yourself out. Yeah, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You can be like, oh my God, this is for a client. It's for a video game. Everybody's going to be looking at this. Everybody's going to be playing this. There are people watching me right now. All this stuff you can think about and freak yourself out. So in a way, it's kind of better to just kind of try and relieve yourself of all of that, and just what happens. Doing my best I can. We'll get through it. We'll work on it. It'll be fine. I forgot I had to get this little section done. This is what I was working on before we finished last time. So I need to get this filled in, because I actually figured out the flow that I wanted here, and now that I see it, I don't want to I don't want to forget it. Frog off. I'm just a newbie. How do you know that when a crocodile closes its mouth, it will close completely when doing animation? So yeah, you just have to check that. I can't remember what stream I did that on, but I went through the whole process of how we check the mouth. But essentially, you just have to physically move the mouth. Like, I can show you really quick. So it's nothing fancy, like, at least not for me. Maybe there's some people out there who do it a much more efficient way. I don't know. I do it this way because this is how I've been doing it for years. But you just, like, isolate, you mask off that area, and then you actually just, like, rotate it. You physically rotate that, physically, like, it's not a real thing, but you move it and actually just close the mouth and check. You check that it closes properly. I'm not closing it. I should have marked where my rotation point was. I think it was around here someplace, because this is where the jaw attaches. But we checked this earlier. We can check it again and move it around again, but you physically, like, rotate it and you see if it closes properly. If it doesn't close properly, you move things around and adjust. And then if you're the one animated it, you don't really have to worry about it, because you know where you rotated the point from. But if somebody else is animating it, you might need to check with them and say, hey, do you need me to mark where the rotation point is? And you might need to include like a little mesh. Like I should have done this for myself actually. I've had to do this for other animators as well. Like you just make a little placeholder mesh. Oh crap, there we go. And you use this as a marker. And you say, this is the rotation point of the jaw. This is where, because if the animator is rotating from a different spot than you are, the jaw won't close the right way. You both need to rotate from the exact same point to get the jaw to close how it should close. So you might need to include something like this, but I don't know if you're working with another person or not. That's how I would check, you know, just swing the jaw into the closed position and check that it works. That's what I have to do. That's like actually one of the most when you start working on stuff like this and you start working on dinosaurs especially, or like any prehistoric animal, one thing that I've really noticed is, especially if you're working from a skeletal, when you close the jaw, a lot of times you will run across problems. Usually the lower jaw, the jaw is too short, like way too short, like way weirdly short. So a lot of the times, in order to get the mouth to close properly, you have to extend the jaw just a little bit. I don't know why that is. I need to ask some of my paleontology contacts and see, like, why is this the case? Like, because I'd imagine, you know, they're trying to be as accurate as possible. So they're measuring the bones. They're taking into account all of the like distortion that might have been in the bones. They're trying to do the best they can to reconstruct the skeleton as close to what it should have been as possible. So I don't know why the jaw why that's such a common issue, you know? Because sometimes it's pretty like noticeable, like they have a serious underbite. I'm like, there's no way. Or underbite or overbite? Overbite? I don't know. The skull overhangs the lower jaw a lot. I'll say that. Oh. Frog, you're welcome. No worries. Anything I can help out with? So the weird part is happening here. So I thought I had this figured out, but maybe I didn't figure it out as well as I thought I would. We're gonna sketch some stuff out, some possible solutions. I'm going to store a morph target. Because if I don't like a solution, I want to be able to kind of erase that. You see how we have this flow? Like the flow goes down here, goes down there. This should go down here like this. But the problem is, or maybe it's not a problem. Let me see. Let's follow this through. So this should go down here, ideally. This should go down here. And then we might get stuck with a little... So you see this like weirdness here? Where there's like 2 tracks converging onto one area. I think what I can do is... There will be some weird scale shapes here. Usually these are like kind of rectangular, but as they merge into this form, they're going to start getting more like either trapezoidal or like diamond shaped. So that's kind of what I'm visualizing. This means that when you make a model, you also use your feelings, right? You mean like intuition? Like, yeah, I suppose so. It definitely like, I do my best not to guess stuff, especially if I'm doing a serious reconstruction. But there is some things that are just like, when you're sculpting and you can follow the skeletal perfectly, like as closely as you can. There's even been times when I've been given like scan data, like actual bones. You're trying to put all this stuff together. And just sometimes when you have it all together and you're starting to work out how the animal would move, how the jaw would close, how the leg would swing forward. There's just some things that don't make sense. Like, not that they don't make sense, but like you have to. There are adjustments that you kind of have to make in order to make the physicality of the animal like work. I guess I'm not describing that in the right way. I could probably think of a better way to say that, but the jaw closing thing is a good example. It's like, obviously this animal was alive. It needed to eat, so it had to be able to close its jaw. We have fossils of the jaw, but for whatever reason, when I close this jaw, the mouth doesn't close correctly. So I'm not like making things up, right? I'm not like making drastic changes, and I'm using a lot of what I know from other dinosaurs that I have worked on before to make like an educated guess of how this body part would function. Maybe there was some distortion in the bones that didn't get taken out. Maybe there was some issues with some of the measurements. Maybe, there's a lot of things that can happen when it comes to this sort of work. But you always try to like make your decisions based off actual like data if you can. Sometimes there's just no data there, and you have to do the best you can. Like I did a reconstruction of a dinosaur that had like, I don't know, barely anything. Like there was like a piece of a leg bone, some of the skull, but we knew what it's related to, like the close relative. So you use that to like supplement the data, until they find more data on that animal. I hope that answers your question. Is that what I hope that's what you're asking? Killer Vic, are you able to copy this work to the other leg, or do you have to detail it individually? No, I can copy this work to the other leg. It's just what I literally do is this is one side, and I just copy and mirror it, flip it over to the other side. The reason why I do this is because if I have the other leg visible, like when I'm trying to work inside here, you can see it, like it can get in the way, and it's just annoying. So I turn it off. I work on one side at a time. Yeah, that's the cool thing about digital sculpting, right? Is you only have to do one side in a bilaterally symmetrical animal. There are definitely some areas where you don't want to be perfectly symmetrical, like down the center line of things most of the time. I think maybe later, depending on how things go, I might run down the midline and like do some asymmetry. But for a game model, it can be a little bit different because there are other requirements. If this was more like a film asset, I would definitely want to go down the middle of the model and make it more asymmetrical. As you get away from the center line, you can be more symmetrical, like more more symmetrical with the sculpt, because it's harder to compare. The closer you get to the center, the more the mirroring is obvious. So you want to change it up. For a game, though, I think there are a lot of specific requirements with the mesh, and it's just easier to handle that with a perfectly symmetrical mesh. There's like all the you would have to account for that asymmetry in like every little stage of the model, and it can get kind of crazy if you have asymmetrical pieces. Not that it's impossible. It's just for a creature design, it's a little bit overkill, I think. So that's going to work out much better, I think, on the back leg there. Once I finish working on this excuse me, these separations of the scales. This one. I'm trying to find the right brush. Furious, I have a question that may seem dumb to someone. No, no dumb questions. I don't think anything is a dumb question. Do these impressive details affect performance of a game by any chance? That's a kind of a complicated question. They can, because I need to get my pen. Yeah, if don't be I would say don't be worried about any questions like being dumb or whatever. I don't think there's such a thing as a dumb question. Like, and in fact, I'll say this for anyone who's here who's trying to get into the industry, hoping to get into the industry. I've been working as an artist in video games and stuff for more than 10 years now. I ask dumb questions all the time. Questions that you think might be obvious but aren't really obvious, that you think might be obvious, that you think everybody knows, but a lot of the times those are the questions you have to ask just because you need to be very specific and you need to clarify the tasks that you're doing. So even though you might feel like it's a dumb question, just ask it, because a lot of the times people feel like they should know the answer to that question and they don't ask it, and then they'll start working on stuff and they'll actually be doing it like maybe like the wrong way, or like a way that doesn't work for the project, and then you might actually end up causing problems or like have to redo stuff because you didn't ask the question in the first place. It's better to ask the question and get your answer than to not ask the question at all. I've learned to, there's sometimes when I feel like I'm asking dumb questions, but gotta ask them, because if not, then I could be messing up something. So gotta make sure to get your questions out there. So I don't think there's such thing as a dumb question, just to start there. But to answer your question about the optimization, so it can. So the thing about, so this mesh is made out of geometry, which are all the little like polygons that connect together to make the mesh, right? In order to get detail, you need more polygons. So the more polygons you get, the more detail you have. And as you can see, this leg alone is 6 million polygons. So if you had a game and you put in like a super dense mesh into the game, it could affect it could affect the performance. Like if you have a ton of really dense meshes in the game, it could affect the performance of the game, and it affects things in other ways too. Like a dense mesh like this is harder to animate. It's almost impossible to animate stuff like this, just because you're trying to move millions of polys around at the same time. So it's very inefficient for a computer to process all of that movement and stuff, which is why we do the process of retopology. So we take this mesh and we make a nice low resolution mesh. But the thing about it is we have to make sure that it has enough detail to capture the form, especially on the outside edges. We're going to get into this when we get into the next phase in the next week or so. It needs to capture the form on the outside at least. Like all of these little fins would need to be captured as polygons. But these bigger areas can be much less polygons. And the way we get around that, the way we cheat it kind of is the way we get the detail back is we're exporting maps. So all of this detail gets projected down onto a UV map or a texture map. So we have UVs and then we have textures. All of this detail gets baked down onto these textures, and then we remap the mesh with those textures to get the surface quality back. So what you're essentially looking at in a game is it's like a wire mesh. Like imagine a wire mesh that's wrapped with basically an image. It's wrapped with an image that has the detail on top of it. So it's kind of an illusion. Like we're making you, because of the way the light in the engine interacts with that image, it's making you think that there are details on the surface, like little bumps, little scales, little ridges and stuff. But it's actually just a flat surface. It's just the light is bouncing off of that in certain ways to get you to think that it's actually round, or like it's got little bumps and grooves on the top. So yeah, we have to take all of this geo and we have to optimize it so that way it can move better. It helps the game run better. I don't know exactly, like I hope that answers your question. But I don't know exactly like what percentage of. I think what actually affects, especially like in games, more modern games, like stuff like in Unreal Engine 5 and stuff, I think you can actually have pretty high resolution models in there because of nanite. So I'm not actually sure exactly, but they usually are static meshes. Like they're not animation. They're not like creatures or characters. They're like houses and like rocks and stuff like that. I think a part of the game, of a game that actually takes a lot more of the performance, is actually the shaders and the textures. Like the texture resolution. That plays more of a factor. Generally because we're usually optimizing the meshes. It's only been recently, like in the past, I don't know, whenever they came out with Nanite, that the poly count of like, especially static meshes, has been able to go up. But I think generally playable game meshes, animatable meshes, like characters, creatures, and stuff like that, I think it's going to be a while before you're able to see like a super dense character mesh be in a game without impacting a lot of performance. Because again, you have to animate it. So you have to be able to calculate all of those positions of those polygons when it's deforming in space. And that's way harder to do when you have millions of polygons. Even movies don't do that. I don't think. Like they can have higher fidelity models to some degree and higher fidelity textures, but their meshes are still fairly optimized. I hope that answers your question, Furious. Big tune, 6 million G's. My laptop would definitely crash. I don't. Maybe. Depends. The total. What's the total? What's this mesh? So this is 15 million. The body is 15 million. I can get kind of crazy. Big Tune, random question. How long did this model take you, by the way? So this is the 28th stream. So we work on this for, I've started this on stream. So we work on this for 2 hours per stream. So 2 times 28, 56 hours so far. That's how long I've been working on this. Furious. So you have to work on a very detailed model first before you turn it into a low poly thing. Yeah, generally. Because you have to make sure that all of your details are being captured in the low poly, at least the major ones. Okay, thanks, Fierce. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, it gets converted into pictures, and I like to say that you know, a video game character is like just a fancy like paper doll inside a computer. It's essentially what it is. Mr. Brownie, how heavy can a Purussaurus get? Does anyone know? I don't know what the size estimates are for Purussaurus, like the mass. I only know like the length. Let me see if we can get a estimate. So maybe somebody's done it says between 5 and 8.4 tons. Let me see if they have any comparisons to other animals. Five and 8.4 tons. That's quite a range. Let me see. A Tyrannosaurus Rex would weigh, it says 12.3 to 12.4. What's the weight? That's the length. 5 to 7 tons, I'm estimating this is. So it sounds like it's about on par with a T-Rex weight, depending on which estimate you go with. But that's That's just my quick Google search here. So I don't know how accurate that would be. So take that into consideration. Cool. Frog off. You need to change size before you export. You mean like changing the scale of the model before I export it to, or you mean the poly count? Poly count. Yes, you do have to change the poly count. Because so what we're going to do is, let me get rid of all my scratch here. So this high poly is going to go from ZBrush. We're going to export it to Blender for retopology. But ZBrush can handle millions of polys much more efficiently than Blender can. And I know Blender can get up there, but it's I don't know. I don't know how under the hood it works. You know what I mean? But essentially, I don't want Blender to have any performance issues. So before we send it to Blender, we're going to reduce the poly count. So the poly count has to go down before we take it into Blender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a process called decimation. Decimation on the high poly mesh, and that's going to triangulate the mesh. And it's going to keep as much detail as possible, but it's going to reduce the poly count down. So what we're looking at is we need to get around, I don't know, Blender has been better lately. I usually try to get around like 1 million polys, but we can probably go higher. So it's going to go from like 15 million polys to only, a couple million, we'll say. So it's going to get reduced. And then we're going to import it into Blender, and then we're going to build a new mesh that's, it's low around this high poly, like a cage around it. And that's going to be the game mesh. That's going to be the mesh that goes into the game. And that's going to be around 30k polys, give or take. So yeah, it's going to go from millions of polys to around 30k for the game. And that's the process that we've done for all of them. Like the EO Carcaria was around the same poly count, maybe a little higher, in the millions of polys. And then once we got it in the game, he was around 30k. Voltioner? Is this Blender or Substance? This is ZBrush. One more question from Fears. Sure, no problem. Is it true that feathered animals are more difficult to model compared to your scaly buddies? In my opinion, yes. Because Okay, so imagine this was like, instead of a Purussaurus, it was like a raptor or something, right? So we'd have all of the details on the raptor itself, but the raptor needs to be covered in feathers, right? So what we need to do is we would need to cover the raptor in what are usually feather cards. So it's, imagine this is one plane. Sometimes it's not just one plane, sometimes it's multiple. This is like imagine this is like a plane of polygons. So we have 4 polygons here. And then after that, you're going to project the shape of a feather onto this plane. So this plane is going to have a transparent texture of a feather on it. So imagine how many feathers we need to have on this guy to make him look nice and fluffy and like, I mean, take a look at like Monster Hunter, right? If you look at their sacred, this model, I can get a good view of it. So this model, you know, it's got a core of just like the actual model itself, the physical pieces of like the arms, the legs, the body, all that stuff. So that's a piece of geometry that's got a low poly model here. But then all of these feathers, you see how all of these little feathers, each of these feathers is probably one polygon, like a plane. So you have all of these that need to be positioned onto this model. So all of these are probably one plane. Some of the bigger ones are going to be multiple polys. So like these small ones can be one plane, and then you can have a feather shape on it. But like these bigger tail feathers, you're gonna have longer planes, and they're gonna be divided multiple times, because these feathers here at the end of the tail, they need to move and sway and stuff like that. So they're gonna need a little bit more geometry to accommodate that, and then you're gonna have that feather texture on here. So each of these is another plane or multiples like this. And you can just imagine, like, think about how many are on here. And usually, depends, but sometimes you can procedurally place those on the mesh, depending on what tool you're using. But a lot of them need to be specifically placed. Like you need to probably somebody placed, especially the ones on here, the ones on the tail, the ones on the wing. Somebody probably placed those by hand, each feather. At least some kind of hand tooling was done on those. So it is, in my opinion, yes, it's much harder to do a feathered dinosaur model than it would be to do just a scaly guy like this. What are you using for this model? Like, this is ZBrush. This is the program that I'm using to make the model. Sorry, guys. I hope I hope that's interesting for you guys, because I'm kind of nerding out on like all these technical questions. But yeah, that's what this kind of stream is for. Anyone who's interested in game dev and how we get these models into a game, you know, that's how it's done. It's a lot of, yeah. I mean, I hope you guys can start to see why it takes so long to make a game, because imagine like this is just one model. You know, when you're making a game, you have thousands of models, you know, and all of those need sculpts, all of those need textures, all of those need colors and all of that stuff. It takes a while. That's why it takes so long for a game to come out. takes years and years, you know, and we're all here waiting for games to release and stuff. And I think I was watching a lot of, because the gaming industry is obviously going through issues in recent months and even years maybe. And I mean, that's part of the reason why is that a game is very expensive to make. It requires so many different disciplines to make. Like, think about everything that goes into, you're tapping into basically every creative discipline that there is, because you need obviously the artwork, you need the animation, you need the music, you need the voice acting. You know, you're tapping into every creative field, and it's all coming into like one thing. And it's not like a movie. Like, you can probably say the same of a movie where like it's tapping into every creative field, like true. But a movie is over and done with in an hour or 2 hours. You know, the game is, depending on the game, you know, you could be playing it for 10 hours, you could be playing it for 300 hours. You know, it's a very extensive, you know, a game like Echoes of Extinction, you know, we hope it's a survival, you know, open world survival kind of crafting game. Those games are hundreds of hours of playable content, you know. People spend tons of time in those games. So it takes a while for sure. Mr. Brownie, do you specialize in modeling dinosaurs or animals? I would say yes. I mean, I can sculpt other stuff. I mean, I have props and human characters and things like that. But my personal favorite thing to work on is creatures. That's what I love doing. That's what I'm passionate about. So that's what I tend to do. Pot. Hello. Just stopping by to say Purussaurus model looks stunning. I can't wait for the tech demo release. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Pot. Furious. That sounds tedious work. And I agree with Pot that your work is absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. It is tedious. Furious. It is tedious. There's a lot of setup. I'll say that. But it, you know, I would say like it's all worth it in the end, you know, because at the end of it, you get this cool model where you see all the feathers like flowing and like moving on the mesh, and like you get to see it running and jumping in the game, and you know, at the end of it, it's all worth it. So I would say, you know, if you're interested in making a feathered creature, take it in steps. Maybe start simple. Like maybe don't do like a peacock or something like it has crazy like feathers. Do something, maybe like do like a stylized raptor or something that just has feathers on the arm or like on the head, or something that's not fully feathered right off the bat, and then slowly kind of build your way up to something that's much more complicated. And that's, you know, that's the way we make feathers right now for video games. But for like movies, they use a totally, I think they would probably use a different system, especially like more like particle systems than like cards. Particles, in my experience, are a little bit easier to deal with because you're not actually like, you can be more procedural with those. You don't have to like hand place every single thing. It can be like, you can kind of grow it out of the mesh. And do like simulations and physics on them and stuff like that. So there's that approach too. Like if you're not making a game, you don't have to optimize your model for a game. It's good to know how to do that, but you don't have to do that. You can take a little bit more. You can use more geometry. You can use more cards. You can do different approaches that probably wouldn't work in game, but would look good in you know, if you're just doing something for your portfolio, it might look cooler that way. Furious, where can we see your models if that's okay? You can check them out on my ArtStation. It's just Raul Ramos Art on ArtStation. I have a lot more of my models here. I mean, I have many, many more that aren't like, they're not even released yet, or that I've just been I've just been too lazy to process them and post them. I'm really bad about doing that stuff. But yeah, you can see a lot of my models here. If you guys want to check it out and follow me on ArtStation, I would really appreciate that. I don't know if you have ArtStations, or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, all that stuff. I try to post as often as I can. Sometimes I get super busy and I don't post as much. But I hope, I'm trying to get better at that stuff. The Dilo model is one of my favorite ones, more recent favorite ones. Actually, one second. I just got this guy in the mail not too long ago. So this is the sculpt I worked on, and he's now a real action figure. So I got that in the mail from Creative Bee Studio last week. He's really cool. He's nice and flexible, and you can do all kinds of different poses and stuff with him. Paint job looks pretty cool too. So yeah, it's really, you know, I get to do a lot of cool stuff. So, you know, no complaints here, right? There's not very many people who get to hold an action figure that they sculpted in their hands and stuff like that. So I'm super fortunate to be able to work on this kind of thing. Yeah, I have a ton of the Creative Bee Studio stuff. Some of it I worked on, some of it well, I've worked on a lot of it in various ways. But they're all I don't have them behind me. I have another shelf full of action figures and collectible stuff on the opposite wall. I have all those guys on there. Just want to get this last little area touched up. So this area looks good, but I think it's a little too smooth, so I'm gonna rough it up just a little bit. Where is there we go. Displace brush. I need to turn on this alpha. Just add a little bit of surface noise, just so it's not so perfectly smooth. I'm gonna delete this leg because I don't want any confusion about which leg is the right leg and all that stuff. We'll just copy that over before we export. Go. Let's just do that now. I'm going to duplicate this, delete the lower, and then mirror that. Actually, I should not have mirrored and welded it. I just need to mirror it. There we go. So now he's got his leg back. And I'll do some like presentation renders and stuff of him so he looks really nice and can show him off. But yeah, that's majority it for the high poly, I think. Excuse me. So that's where we're at right now, guys. I think next week we should be able to get into retopo. I'm going to check with Islander on this, make sure he's totally happy with the way this looks. If we need to do any last minute adjustments, we can do that. But yeah, this guy's mostly ready to go, I think. I'm just doing a last inspection, I suppose. Yep. Yeah, guys, thank you once again for showing up to the stream. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all of the the interaction today. Really like talking to you guys about all this stuff. And I should be here same time next weekend. So you guys want to stop by, feel free. Yeah, I'll see you around. Thank you, Furious. Thanks for all the questions today. Really appreciate it. Everyone who asked the question and all the compliments and all that stuff, I really appreciate. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.